season now.
Yeah.
G.I.JOE continue to build, continue to introduce new characters, but it also feels like random action. This is a high octane G.I.JOE. It's on the cartoon.
Yeah.
Was that always intentional? You really wanted to kind of push the edge of action and character and just dial it up to 11?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is easy. I do feel like it's an action book, I do have to remind myself to slow it down sometimes and make it, not just toys smashing into each other and make it about characters. And that's kind of why we did, I don't know, I see a balance in the book at times, It's like even when we were talking about the Dreadnok War stuff, one of the issues is definitely, I don't want to say slows down, because there's still a lot of tension in it. But it has character moments, So that's even with the Baroness cover girl arc. It was like, yes, there's a lot of action in it, but then we also make sure it's all full of character and things like that. But yeah, I always want to just keep on ramping it up. I do feel like Dreadnok War is crazy, and then it's like another thing's gonna be crazy. That's what we're building. It's just gonna keep escalating, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That is definitely the goal of it. It is not a slow build. I don't want to call it that. I guess that's part of it. We don't have this really big plan, so I don't want it to be a slow build. I just want to have a build that we earn, but it's still action-packed every time.
Any worry about not being able to continue to talk yourself?
No, but at this point we have such a big plan, and we know what's coming. If anything, it's like I don't know. I get really excited about what's coming all the time. Like some of the stuff, like we'll meet up and we'll talk about some of the plans for the future, and it's like. Yeah.
I think with I think what I really liked what Josh did at the end of G.I.JOE Arc 1 and 6 was it ultimately became a very small story about Duke and Cobra Commander and these guys trying to impose their will on each other. So like, yes, there were huge stakes of the bomb blowing up and all that, but it was ultimately like, who was going to triumph in this? And that it made it a personal story. And that's like, as you see through Dreadnok War, we're continuing the stories that were set up in Duke and Cobra Commander into that first arc, and this is almost like this is the third act of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big. I like going to the theater. I know sort of Sean. Am I allowed to say that?
Sure. Not much fun, but yeah.
But I like going to the theater, and I think sometimes you go to the theater, like all you need is a stage, right? Like you don't need all these giant crazy set pieces. You can have two great actors on the stage doing a scene together, and it doesn't matter. It could be one spotlight with darkness around them, and it can be amazing. And I always think about that when I'm working on these books. You want that, and then what I want to do is I'm going to take that and then I want to drop it in the craziest things I possibly can. It always comes down to that. It always comes down to two characters in a room or in a set or whatever having this tense moment. And a lot of my writing really always comes down to that. And so that's even with the stuff we were talking about with Duke and Cobra Commander and some other things that are building. It always comes down to these. A lot of my writing comes down to this: two characters in a room having to, have conflict with each other. So that's a lot of my work.
Even within the team,
yeah,
coming together, guys not getting
yeah.
grabbing to pull Duke up.
Yeah, and there's gonna be more of that. There's gonna be some more of that. Like there's definitely gonna be some tension among the team. We don't want it to be easy, and there's stuff we were talking about this during the panel. The stuff that we're building, it will continue to have that where it's not easy. We don't want it to be like. Listen, we love the cartoon, we love it. And it was a note that Robert had really early on, where Robert was like, the day we get to the very basic like cartoon episodes, Duke, or Cobra versus G.I.JOE, our job is kind of done in a way. Like we don't want to get to that.
Right.
Like this is about the build to that. We don't want to just replicate the cartoon. We want to get to that. So yeah.
Did you have a favorite G.I.JOE character? Kind of as a kid, I'm assuming you liked this property before you got it.
Yeah, as a kid, yeah.
And now that you're writing, is it that same character that you're excited to write for, or is it like, oh no, this is much more interesting to write for this person?
I mean, Cobra Commander was my favorite character, so yeah, you can tell, I love writing him the most, I like all of them, as a kid, I did like Duke, and there's some other characters that I really liked as a kid that I haven't shown yet. You can always tell the characters I liked by the ones that are in the book. I mean, it's funny, like there's a couple of characters I really, really loved that we didn't put in at the beginning because it didn't make sense yet to get there. And I wanted to build them. There was a note that Sean had really early on. I love Firefly. And in Duke #1, we had Firefly like in the background in a page, and Sean was like, why would you do that to Firefly? If you love him, like have him the best introduction. And it locked in my brain from that moment forward to make sure when we do introduce characters, it's never this like background thing.
We gotta get to Firefly.
We'll get to Firefly. I actually don't know when we're going to get to Firefly now, but that was a big piece of it. But yeah, there are characters that I love we haven't got to yet but you can kind of tell the characters I like. Like I like Clutch, you can tell which character I really like. I liked Baroness as a kid, so it's like you can kind of see the characters I really like. But there's a few like Mercer.
Is Shipwreck the Aquaman of G.I. Joe?
No, I love Shipwreck. I have a whole plan for Shipwreck. I really like him a lot. We might get to him actually sooner than I thought we were going to, but it'll depend on some stuff. We do this really big plan. But, every once in a while we do. I would never say we pivot, but like you let the story guide you. You don't want to be so locked in that you can't move things when you know it's right for the story. Yeah, we do. I got plans for Shipwreck. I got a whole thing for him. Yeah.
The series is like really stood out to me because it balances the cartoony and the grounded, really, really well. Like, how important was it to kind of bridge both aspects of G.I. Joe?
I mean, yeah, it was really important. I mean, I wanted to feel like G.I. Joe, but I wanted the Energon version of G.I. Joe, And I always write. I feel like my writing is always does lean a little like Sam Raimi-ish at times, where it can be horror but fun, And I think you look at James Gunn a little bit, It's like my writing, I feel like leans a little bit of that. So on this book, it was like I just wanted to be true to the characters, true to the property, and like what I liked about it, Like that was a big piece of it. It was looking at like what did I like when I was a kid? That's not broken, It's not changes. So it was really looking at the stuff I loved about the cartoon, and then a lot of the movie. Just looking at the real animated movie and the tone of that is really what I'm always trying to get. Is that specifically.
The animated movie.
The animated movie,
not the weird ones.
Yeah, the animated movie. Yeah.
We prefer Stephen Sommers on The Mummy and stuff.
Oh, The Mummy is like it's one of my favorite movies. But anyway.
Shooter is coming to Night Force, which has kind of been the secondary team of G.I. Joes. So what was the decision to kind of do back and forth with Duke's team and this kind of shadowing team? Because I kind of like Night Force, so I'm just kind of curious.
I like subplots, and I like doing kind of interlude issues and things like that. And I think if you look at like what Robert would do with Invincible, where he was building out these really long-term subplots, and things would come in and out, and things would do this and stuff like that. And so when I started developing this book, I like that. And when you have the room to breathe, you have the room to do that. Because sometimes you do books. Sometimes you do like I'll call them franchise books. You don't really know how long you're going to be on it for, and it can create a sense of urgency and a feel that like you got to do everything right now. With this, it was because we knew we had this really big plan. It was like, okay, I can actually breathe a little bit. So that meant being able to do interlude issues. That meant being able to build the plot with Night Force. And yeah, I like the way we're rolling it out. You'll see how it builds out. But it's a lot of planning. But I like what we're doing it, where it's like it's gonna build to something. And so I don't know. I like rewarding longtime readers, and I feel like if you are gonna read this for the long haul, like you're gonna be rewarded for it. Like that's how I see it. Like I really like. I don't know. I actually did a reread of Invincible during the pandemic, and the idea that you can read it and then like you get to a point you're like, oh, he was planning this here and this and this. Like I like that kind of stuff. And so with this, I like if somebody decides to do a reread. If they read it and then they go, I'm gonna go back and reread it, to go back to their issue and be like, holy shit, they were planning this from the beginning. Like that's the stuff that I really register as. Like ultimately, the rule I've always had is I have to like it, And so you look at a lot of stuff. A lot of times you can see my influence on the page, I guess. Yeah.
It's also about we wanted to widen the aperture from just G.I. Joe Cobra to different factions.
Oh, well, that was a big part of it. Was that, I forgot about that. So when I was doing my rewatch of G.I. Joe, like he and I had just talked about it in general, and I started rewatching G.I. Joe, and I started realizing how it was a little frustrating that like the first mini is G.I. Joe versus Cobra, and the second mini is G.I. Joe versus Cobra, and it was this thing. And then it was when the Dreadnoks got introduced, they were just working for Cobra. It wasn't like a completely separate no Cobra involvement thing. Like they were technically working with them. And I was like, I wish it had been a bit more like there were other villain groups. And I was like, oh, it would be more interesting if it had been like Major Blood was its own thing and Deathstroke was its own thing, like had it built like that, and then find a way to build them together. As we started talking about different factions, but then it was like, oh, what if there were different factions in G.I. Joe as well, right? Like, don't make it as easy as it is in the cartoon. Like in the cartoon, they all just get along. So it was like, no, what if we build different factions among Cobra that will come together, and then we have different factions within G.I. Joe. But again, don't make it easy. Like, you're seeing the fact that the Dreadnoks are back, but they're trying to kill Cobra Commander, right? It's not like, we don't want it to be just easy and clean the way it is. But that was definitely a part of the motivation. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any insight on this, Sean. It's got a real life cold slither.
Yeah. Is it crazy?
I got a chance to interview Zartan yesterday. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Did that coincide with Dreadnok War? Like, did you guys do
No, I mean, we knew about the plans for a while, but we were already working. Like, Dreadnok War was always Arc 3. Like,
Yeah, it's been the plan, like, from day one. Yeah. We almost wanted to be Arc 2, but we knew it wasn't going to work with the story where it was, you know? We just knew we needed to get there, you know? But yeah.
The main thing with that was, you know, we announced we're releasing a Cold Slither one-shot in October by Tim Cillian and Juan Cabal, and that was... It's not Energon, it's not Real American Hero. It's probably the closest we've done to an animated book, but like it's funny, but there's also a huge emotional core and there's like a ton of action. But yeah, it's cool for Hasbro to give us a peek, and we're like, yeah, we would love to do a crazy comic and make a variant cover that looks like album art of what a Cold Slither album will look like. And yeah, it's really ambitious that they did all that.
They did all that. It's so crazy. I didn't go, but I saw stuff. I saw the pictures, and I was like, wow, that is fun.
Yeah, it's sold out. The guy that plays Zartan, Gus Rios, he was like, he told me straight up, he's like, I was overwhelmed because he's got a Cobra symbol tattooed on his wrist.
Oh, for real?
He's a giant G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Now he's playing Zartan.
Yeah.
I gotta see some video of that. I gotta see a video of it.
We talked about this a little at the panel, but people listening weren't at the panel. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship and how you work with Hasbro? Is there a Bible that you have to follow? Is there rules like, hey, you can't make this person turn bad or anything like that?
I mean, there's brand rules. Like, they are still, at the end of the day, family brands, right? So we try to play within that. Well, they've graciously allowed us to push those limits, but yeah, we were set up with brand Bibles for both, but we just presented them our plan. They gave us notes, and that's kind of how it is. You know, we present outlines, and they see every step of the way. But they've been really supportive, especially with the success we've had. They've sort of given us more freedom. And, you know, we talk with their toy teams to be like, hey, these are all things we're doing if you want to do something. And we have a lot of communication with them, you know. So, yeah, no, I mean, they've made comics for a very long time, so they understand how it is.
They're really supportive of what we do.
Yeah. I mean, they had to start planning these Void Rivals toys that they're selling now, like basically 2 years ago. So they got on board really, really quickly, and it's awesome.
One of the characters that feels like it's changed a lot is Cobra Commander. And he's not quite the sniveling fool that he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sadistic and pretty cold. You know, why did you kind of go that route? It seems very psychotic in some ways.
We just wanted to have the Energon Universe version of these characters, you know, and I really love him as a character. And again, we talked before where it was like, with Duke, it was like I kind of latched onto certain things. Duke is a man of action, so maybe I can translate it as Duke being impulsive, like make him impulsive. And then with Cobra Commander, it was like the one twist could be he's never going to retreat again. And so once we started going, he's never going to retreat again, then I just had his voice in my head about making him like a different character, and I just think it works. It just worked really well to make him dangerous and scary, you know, like make him feel like a real threat, not a joke. Oh, do you?
You get a quick one,
You get a quick one.
I guess, okay, so you wrote, you and Cobra trying to kill each other, now work together in the Dreadnok War. How fun is that?
It's awesome. Yeah, I love working together. They're crazy together. Yeah, you'll see it gets nuts.
I think they're more similar in ways than you think.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.